We are back with Stephanie Dobson again this week for another episode of Healthy Thriving Family After Divorce. Stephanie is a lawyer, mediator, and online educator with Hankin Divorce Law and Mediation offices in Lloydminster and Edmonton. Stephanie, thanks as always for joining me once again.
Thanks, Stacey, for having me.
Well, this week we're going to be talking about transitions, and it's never an easy time for anybody going through separation and divorce. And so the first thing I'd like to get you to explain to me is, what is a transition in the context of separation and divorce?
Yeah, good question. So, Stacey, this topic is about children being transported from one home to the other home, or from one parent to the other parent when the children live in two homes after they're separated or divorced. So some people call it an exchange or a transition. We're swapping the children. There's many different words for it. I like the word transition because it sounds much more human than an exchange sounds more like a pawn. So there's so many things that can go well and things that can go poorly. So I thought today we'd talk about ways to make these transitions as positive as possible for the children.
And what are some ways that these transitions occur?
Well, here's some examples for parents. So there's several ways, of course, that children can be transported. One, I've got 4 ideas here. So the first one is to meet at the midpoint. So it's usually that's somewhere neutral in location, like a Tim Hortons or a McDonald's parking lot. And this can be really helpful if there's conflict between the parents, because of course, having the location be more public, it often reduces the opportunities for conflict. Secondly, one parent drops off at the other parent's home. So this would be very common, especially on a weekend. But if this option is selected, I often recommend that the parent who's starting their parenting time pick up the children at the designated time so they can be assured that the other parent isn't delayed. Children can travel by themselves. Of course, this has to be age appropriate. So when the parents live really close by, maybe the kids can walk or bike between the homes when it's not wintertime. If the parents live long distance and if maybe there's a plane ride involved, the kids can maybe fly on their own or as unaccompanied minors if it's appropriate. And the fourth way is to drop off at a neutral location. So this is especially helpful if the children have hard time with transitions between the homes. So you might want to drop off at school or an extracurricular activity, and then the other parent will pick up at the end of that school or extracurricular activity.
So how can parents provide the best transition possible for kids?
Well, here's a few strategies. So first is to establish really clear communication, maintaining really open lines of communication between the parents, and creating a detailed parenting plan between the parents so that there's no misunderstandings. The more conflict equals the more detail that you should have in your parenting plan. Using a neutral location can be really helpful. So we talked earlier about the Tim Hortons parking lot. Being consistent, so sticking to established schedules as much as possible and staying positive can really be helpful. Involving the children, so if it's age appropriate, allow the children to have a say in their schedule and preferences if you feel that that's appropriate, and really avoid conflict during exchanges. So those 4 options that we gave earlier, the more conflict that there is, the more I recommend those neutral locations.
So what are some tips for parents after they get their kids following a transition?
Well, the first and maybe the best tip I would give is to create a really warm welcome. So really greet your children warmly, lovingly, and provide that calm routine environment when your children get home. Keep their items really organized. So really when they get home, they feel calm, they feel like they can go to their bedroom, they know exactly where everything is. And even in trying to engage your children in some activities that your children enjoy right at the beginning, because that helps with that transition, is really to get their mind off of the fact that they're in a new location and to limit the stress. So avoid scheduling significant events right after an exchange. So maybe an activity at home, something like that. And then the last thing is really to establish some open communication. So figure out, how did their time go at the other parent's home? Listen to them non-judgmentally, feel happy for them for whatever they experienced at the other home, and really try to talk to them about what they might want to do as they're transitioning into your home.
All right, Stephanie, well, good information once again, and thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back to chat again next week.
Thanks, Stacey.